Good morning, all, depending when you're watching this. Good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we've got one more big update about Raging Surf. The full set has been revealed for Raging Surf over in Japan, and there are a bunch of cards that we haven't talked about yet that we need to have a chat about, so that's what we're doing today. Basically, the last good reveals from Raging Surf and cards you need to know about, which obviously are going to come over as Paradox Rift over here. So let's start off having a little bit of a look at Tapu Koko. Usual deal here. I have done the translations myself, however I have checked with the lovely Antoine Boulet to make sure I've not done anything particularly silly. So what have we got here with Tapu Koko? Well, we've got ourselves a basic EX, we've got 210 HP, which is on the lower end for a basic EX, and we got 2 energy, 30 damage, Revenge Shock. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack during your opponent's last turn, this attack does 90 more damage plus paralysis. So basically, if you had a Pokemon KO'd last turn, you've got 120 plus paralysis for 2 energy. I want 1 energy. When we look at our revenge attackers here, I want 1 energy, and then we go. Basic Pokemon, single energy, and it's not often the way it is. A lot of the time it is 2 energy, I understand that, or 1 energy on a stage 1, but it's slightly annoying. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's a lightning Pokemon, so we got things like Electric Generator around at the moment, which can go and get the energy quite nicely. And look, 120 plus paralysis is good. It means your opponent's going to struggle to attack next turn. It means you're doing a decent amount of damage. I like it. But 2 energy, and then it's, 120 is still not a big one-hit KO on very much. But then again, you're paralyzing what you don't KO. I do think it's a useful attacker, but it's very much a revenge attacker occasionally kind of thing. 3 energy, 180 discard 1, I don't particularly like. I don't think this is particularly good. I'm not a huge fan. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and give this one between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. This isn't your top tier EX that everybody's going to be playing, but it is a useful EX with a decent revenge attack, and you know what? Sometimes that can be pretty gosh darn good. Now, in terms of the other cards, there are a bunch. I'm not sure how many of these are game-changing, but all of these can be very useful in the right circumstance. So we've got ourselves a weird Cloth. 120 HP basic, and for 2 colorless energy, 30 damage. Not great. If this Pokemon is affected by a special condition, this attack does 160 more damage. You're talking 190 for 2 energy on a basic Pokemon. That's really, 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 really good. We like this a lot. Now, in terms of, giving yourself a special condition, we have got some stuff like Spicy Seasoned Curry. Burn your own Pokemon and heal 40 damage from it. It's a kind of weird card that when we looked at the time, I was like, look, at some point there's going to be some weird cards that can take advantage of this. This is exactly the kind of thing I was talking about. Burn yourself, and then potentially, like, turn 1 going second, you can be doing 190 here. Sure, you've got to take your own damage from burn, but this could be very, very good. 2 energy, 80 damage, plus you burn yourself is not good. I understand you're trying to set up that first attack, but no. It's not good. Don't worry about it. Sorry. I'm going to go and give this one, again, I'm giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. I do think because we can put special conditions on ourselves, I think this could be very, very fun. As a side note, you want Burn and Poison here. You don't want anything that will stop you attacking. It's rotated out now, but things like Yellhorn back in the day is a kind of thing you could have used here to confuse both active Pokemon. And yeah, you get to confuse your opponent's Pokemon, and that's really nice. But then you've got to flip a coin or your attack fails. You don't want ones like that. You are looking Burn and Poison. Now, sticking with fighting, we've got ourselves a Flamigo. Now, I don't like the single energy 30. Nobody particularly cares. I do incidentally like Flamigo. It's one of the Pokemon that really carried me on my initial run through a Violet. But then we got 2 energy, 20 damage base, plus 20 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Well, if they've got a full bench, that's 120 for 2 energy. That's really good. And again, we're talking basic Pokemon, and again, we're talking 2 energy. Gutsy Pickaxe here will work very nice indeed. Or you can use any kind of energy acceleration. Because it is a single energy here, a single colorless energy, any energy acceleration will do. And then all of a sudden, you're talking 120 on a fighting Pokemon. And you know what? This is a kind of card that could be teched into a bunch of decks. If you're playing other energy and other energy acceleration, you play one Flamigo, play one fighting energy or something like a luminous energy, which can count as a fighting energy. And now all of a sudden, you've got a fighting type attacker with stuff like Iron Hands coming in, looking very, very, very good and very worrying. This is the kind of card that you could be teching in as an anti-fighting tech. Because you only need one fighting energy, and it is a basic Pokemon. Although I do need to point out here, this is very important, you can imagine that there will be times your opponent is just able to control their bench. And if they control their bench well enough, you're not doing much damage here. That is what I worry about. I worry about my opponent being able to be like, oh, cool, yeah, I've not got much of a bench. Gutted, now you do naffle damage. It's one that I'm keeping my eye on. I'm giving this one a nice solid 3 Wassies. Now, just to finish off with fighting Pokemon, I need to mention the new Donphan. Now, the new Donphan is one that the lovely Antoine Boulet did not bother to post on their Twitter. So that probably tells you what they think about it. I am a big fan of Donphan generally, and this means I get to show off a card that I translated all by myself and haven't even checked with anyone. Is this an amazing gem that Antoine missed? Probably not, honestly, although look at the amazing artwork on the Phanpy. What we've got here is 2 colorless energy, 30 damage, and discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Damage-wise, poor, frankly, very, very poor. However, milling 2 from your opponent, that's actually pretty good, ladies and gentlemen. Because there are going to be times where you can get your opponent with this, where you are discarding the last 2 cards of their deck, or you are discarding enough cards that you're catching a couple cards they really want, or you're catching their last energy, or something along those lines, and this is actually going to be very, very useful. There is a possibility here that this ends up being really, 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 really good. Just putting it out there, ladies and gentlemen. Just putting it out there. As for the second attack, it's free energy 160 and it can't attack next turn. That's just not good. That's pretty terrible, honestly, ladies and gentlemen. So let's not worry too much about that one. But a little bit of milling for 2 colorless energy. I can get behind this, although I do understand it might not be the best Pokemon ever. Let's give it 3 Wassies and know that that is extremely generous. Now, there is a new Orthworm coming in here, which looks absolutely adorable. And we've got ourselves 140 HP on a basic, which is actually very high. Single energy, 20 damage, draw 2 cards. I like this. This is very good. Now, it's not particularly exciting, I'll give you that. But the fact that you can just draw 2 cards while doing a little bit of damage for a single energy on a basic Pokemon, if you need to get rolling in metal decks, this could work very nicely indeed. We've then got, and this is an attack which gives real nostalgia for me, 90 damage for free energy. If there are 3 or fewer cards in your deck, this attack does 150 more damage. That is 240 for free energy. And this is Excadrill. Now, it's nowhere near as good as Excadrill, but this is what Excadrill did with the 3 or fewer cards in your deck being good. The thing with Excadrill was, it also had a really good attack for a single energy, did 120 while South Milling 4, and then it South Milled to get you down there faster. Excadrill had 2 really good single energy attacks and South Milled. This does it for free energy. And it does more damage, and 240 is a really nice amount of damage to hit, but the problem you're going to find with this is getting down to 3 cards in deck is going to be extremely awkward. Getting the free energy on there is going to be kind of awkward. And as much as this looks like Excadrill, this ain't Excadrill. I'll give it 3 Wassies because there's potential, but this one, It makes me a bit sad because it's kind of like my old boy Excadrill, but it's not got that level of potential. Now, Golisopod is back, and this is one which is a very specific tech. We got a water Pokemon, we got free energy 130, which is terrible, and then for a single water energy, 20 damage for each card in your opponent's hand. There are going to be plenty of games where this is very bad. There's going to be plenty of times where this does like 80 or 100 damage, which might be good enough for a single energy for you. But there are going to be other times where your opponent builds up a big hand of like 10 cards, and you can absolutely punish them for doing so. Or there are going to be times where your opponent knows you've got this in your deck. This is one you may want to let your opponent know about. And they look at that and they go, oh, hang on a second. I'm not going to build up a big hand. I'm not going to fall for that. And that's where you get the advantage. It's not necessarily because you're attacking with Golisopod. It's because your opponent knows that you can attack with Golisopod. So whereas they would sometimes try building up a big hand to help themselves out in future turns, they instead go, nah, I'm not building up a big hand. You can punish me for that. And that alone can give you a little bit of value there. Certainly, I like this in Zoroark decks. Just play one, whack it in the discard. If your opponent ever gets a big hand, you swap Zoroark for Golisopod and go nuts. But I do think that might be the best use for it. Either way, I'm giving it 3 Wassies. It's another one with a little bit of potential. Just like Dondozo. I like Dondozo. I think Dondozo is cool. I think this artwork looks amazing from Saito. I think this card is interesting. For a single colorless energy, look at the top 5 cards of your deck and attach any number of basic energy you find there to this Pokemon. And it has to be attached to this Pokemon. So that's the big downside here. If you can attach it any way you like, get some energy acceleration going, that would be fun. But this is very specifically to this Pokemon only. And I have checked the translation, it is very much this Pokemon. That is a bit of a downside. Now you've then got 5 energy 180, and this is kind of weird, because on the one hand, 5 energy 180 is huge, absolutely huge, but also you've got energy acceleration, and also 180 is a decent amount of damage. And to be fair, you can always play this in like Baxcalibur decks, although even in Baxcalibur decks, whacking 5 energy on here is going to be, it's going to be less than ideal a lot of the time, because that's still a huge amount of damage. I will say in a pre-release, this is going to be an absolute beast. This is going to be ridiculous in Paradox Rift pre-releases, because you are going to be able to essentially, play a couple of these, bunch of water energy. You will hit this more often than not because you'll be playing a lot more energy in pre-release decks, and you can always just up the amount of energy, and then you'll be hitting 180, which will be great. There are going to be a bunch of people that get 2 or 3 of these and just play it with nothing but water energy in these, and we know because people have been doing this for years, those games are just less fun. They're really not much fun. It's not good to play like that at pre-release from a fun angle, but hey, if you want to win, it will probably work. Either way, this is a pre-release beast. I'm giving it between 2 and 3 Wassies. When I give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. This one's a fun gimmick, nothing more. And then finally, we got ourselves a Lanturn here. And essentially, what we've got is, it's not 2 energy 50. Free energy, 80 damage. But if there's any water energy on here, 200 damage. And essentially, if you want to play a little bit of water energy in your lightning deck, we've got ourselves a single prize Pokemon that can hit 200 damage. 200 damage is a lot. It's a Pokemon that gives up 1 prize. It could be useful. Let's again go ahead and give it 3 Wassies. Honestly, the fact that it's a stage 1 is probably going to be the big difference. Hey ho. Right, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you need to know, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me which of these cards you like. Tell me which you're excited about. Tell me if you think there's any card from the set that I've missed. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy. That's where we talk Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.